Welcome back to Lab Cyber, and today's video is going to be a very special one because it's more of a short course on how we could use ChatGPT with cybersecurity. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you pretty much know that AI is all the talk right now. Everyone is using ChatGPT, so I thought, why not show you the different ways how we could use ChatGPT for cybersecurity related tasks. So this video is going to be perfect if you are a cybersecurity professional, expert, enthusiast, or simply a cybersecurity analyst, and you want to learn how we could use ChatGPT for cybersecurity related tasks. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how you could use ChatGPT for threat intelligence reports, how you can summarize them, how you can use ChatGPT for vulnerability identification and management. I'm going to touch on how you could use ChatGPT for incident response, ChatGPT and automation, how you can use ChatGPT to write scripts, Python scripts specifically, to automate certain kinds of tasks. And then finally, I will also show you how you could use ChatGPT to create content for security awareness training. Now, please do note that all the lessons you're going to see in this tutorial, they're actually taken from my full course on how you could use ChatGPT for cybersecurity. I have the course on my platform Lab Cyber and also on Udemy. I'll have more information about this at the end of the video, or you can also check out more information in the description box below. So without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into the course. All right, so let's begin by talking a little bit about ChatGPT and try to understand the history and how ChatGPT actually works. So what exactly is ChatGPT? Well, it is an AI-powered chatbot developed by OpenAI, the company, and is designed to process natural language and generate human-like responses. Now, ChatGPT is based on the large language model, what we call the LLM, that has been trained on diverse text data to assist users with various types of tasks, including, of course, research, content creation, and, because we're talking about cybersecurity applications. Just a brief history of ChatGPT and OpenAI, why not? So apparently back in 2015, while I think we were all focused on cryptocurrency back then, I think cryptocurrency was becoming quite a big deal in 2015. This company called OpenAI, they were founded as an AI research lab. Now, fast forward 5 years, they introduced GPT-3 that was capable of generating coherent text and assisting with technical tasks. Those were the baby steps, the baby days of ChatGPT. Now, in 2022, we had the actual first release of ChatGPT, an interactive AI chatbot built on GPT 3.5, and then later, of course, GPT-4. And of course, in 2023, till the present date, we've been having continuous improvements in accuracy, efficiency, and integrations with cybersecurity tools. Now, as efficient and as fantastic as ChatGPT is today, I can only imagine just how much more powerful it's going to be, let's say 3-4 years from now. And even not just necessarily ChatGPT alone, but other AI models out there, Gemini, Claude, the list goes on, how much more powerful they are going to be. So how exactly does ChatGPT work? I think we should have some understanding of how it actually works. So ChatGPT is trained using a mix of supervised learning and also something that we call the reinforcement learning from human feedback, the RLHF. We'll talk about this in just a moment. So it learns language patterns by analyzing massive data sets from books, articles, scientific papers, and so on, and then other internet sources. And now ChatGPT can predict the most likely next words based on context. And then ChatGPT actually doesn't think or understand. It simply generates responses based on patterns. Now, I want us to spend a little bit more time talking about the actual training process because I think it's very, very fascinating. So you do have 4 phases. The very first phase, phase 1, ChatGPT will first be trained on massive data set containing books, your articles, websites, scientific papers, and code repositories. So basically, you're feeding ChatGPT with as much information as you can. And now, during pre-training, the model isn't explicitly programmed with actual rules. Instead, it learns by predicting the next word in a sentence. So this is what we call the self-supervised learning approach, the SSLA. Now, in phase 2, ChatGPT will learn to break words into a sequence of tokens, and it can analyze the meaning of the words based on context. So as an example, if you were to type into the ChatGPT prompt, you typed in cybersecurity is important. What ChatGPT actually does is that it's going to break that sentence into several tokens. So cyber will be a token, security will be a token, is will be a token, important will be a token, and even the apostrophe at the end of the sentence will also be a token as well. So that's how ChatGPT works. It breaks your sentences into several tokens. Now in phase 3, we now have the reinforcement learning from human feedback. So over here, actual humans, human reviewers, will provide example conversations and then rank different responses based on quality. So basically, the human will ask different types of questions on ChatGPT, and then depending on the kind of answers that ChatGPT gives the human being back, that human will be able to grade the quality of the responses and then simply choose the best one. So a reward model will then be trained to rank the responses, and eventually the AI will be trained to be able to use reinforcement learning to generate better responses over time. So basically, with the help of the human giving feedback back to ChatGPT saying, hey, ChatGPT, this is a better response. You may have already experienced this before, where you ask ChatGPT to provide certain kinds of information or content, and then ChatGPT will give you one response while simultaneously providing the same response but in a different style. And then ChatGPT will actually ask you to choose which response you prefer. You may have already seen that happen already. It's happened to me several times already. So that's basically ChatGPT trying to learn from you on how to provide better responses over time. That's exactly what's happening in here. And of course, phase 4, continuous learning fine-tuning. So OpenAI, they may periodically fine-tune ChatGPT using user interactions. However, please keep in mind that ChatGPT does not learn from individual user sessions. It does not retain memory from past chats unless this is specifically fine-tuned by OpenAI. So, AI in cybersecurity, we all know, we're going to discuss more about this later, but AI has already been used in cybersecurity for quite some time right now. But specifically with ChatGPT, we could use it for threat intelligence, for incident response, for security awareness, and so much more. We're going to delve into all of this later in the course. And before I round up, I wanted to give you a few differences between ChatGPT and other AI tools that have already been used within cybersecurity for quite some time now. So we do have the purpose. ChatGPT is used for general conversations and content generation, not just specifically cybersecurity. However, your traditional AI tools in cybersecurity, they're typically used or trained for malware detection, anomaly detection, and so on. And then the training data used for ChatGPT is large-scale general text data sets, while for your traditional AI in cybersecurity, they are trained by making use of specific security logs and threat data. And then the use in cybersecurity, ChatGPT can be used for, again, so many things: incident response, security awareness training, threat evaluation, vulnerability research, and so on. While traditional AI in cybersecurity is typically used to detect threats and, of course, block attacks. So that's it for understanding ChatGPT. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next class. Welcome back. So now let me show you how we can summarize our threat reports by making use of ChatGPT. Now, as you can see from the prompt, I've already uploaded a sample threat report. And look at my prompt. I've said, summarize the following threat intelligence report into 5 key bullet points. It always helps when you tell ChatGPT in what format you want the information to be presented in. So I've said 5 key bullet points. And now what I'm looking for in each bullet point are the target, attack method, the malware behavior, identified IOCs, the indicators of compromise, and of course, mitigation recommendations. So I'm being very, very precise with what it is I am looking for ChatGPT to do for me. Summarize the report into 5 key bullet points, and now those are the bullet points right there that I'm interested in. Let's see what ChatGPT is going to do. Obviously, it's going to go through the documents, and now look at that. Okay, we have the bullet point number 1 involving the target. We know it's financial institutions across Europe and North America. And now the attack method, mostly through phishing emails. And now we have the malware behavior. Okay, makes use of custom malware, uses encrypted HTTPS communication, and so on. And now we have the indicators of compromise, the IP addresses, the domains, the file hashes, and of course, the mitigation recommendations as well. So you can see right there at a glance, we've seen the summary of the entire report. So once again, it really helps when you tell ChatGPT the format in which you want it to provide for you the information, and also specifically what you're looking for in your summary. Now, still making use of the exact same report I've uploaded, I'm going to give you another prompt. And now this one says, from the same report, extract all IOCs and display them in a structured format. See, again, I'm asking ChatGPT to present them in a structured format. Believe me, it goes a long way. So in here, I'm not interested in the mitigation recommendations or the attack methods. All I'm looking for are the IOC. So you can tell ChatGPT again specifically what it is that you are looking for. Let's see how ChatGPT is going to present the information. Obviously, it's analyzing the report again. And let's see. And there you go. You can see right now the structure into 2 columns. It's clear, it's concise, it's easy to read. We have the type of IOC, IP address, the domain, the file hash, and then we have the respective values on the right as well. So that's a pretty easy way of extracting and finding out all the IOCs in the threat intelligence report. I'm going to give you another one, all right? And now look at this, okay? I've said, based on the same report again, suggest a step-by-step mitigation plan to address the identified threats. Remember, whenever you're asking ChatGPT to provide guidance or provide some sort of method of going about a particular kind of plan or something like that, always try to use step-by-step. It helps ChatGPT a lot, and the way ChatGPT will present it to you is actually going to be very, very easy to follow. So let's see how ChatGPT presents this information. Because we've said step by step, it's going to go, okay, phase 1. All right, this involves immediate containment and response. And now we have the tasks under phase 1. And now after phase 1, we move on to phase 2, incident investigation and malware eradication. Again, we have the tasks under step 2, or phase 2 rather. And then we move on to phase 3, phase 4, and there you go. So ChatGPT presents the information in very, very clear, structured format because we've said step by step, okay? It goes a long way to helping our ChatGPT. I'm going to give you one more prompt, and this one is going to involve summarizing the report or any kind of threat intelligence report for executive members without a background in IT or cybersecurity. So look at this, okay? I've said, summarize the report in no more than 300 words in plain language that will be easy to understand by a non-technical executive. So 2 major requirements in here. First of all, make sure the language you use is non-technical. It's going to be easy for anyone with little to no background in cybersecurity to understand. But then second, I've said, in no more than 300 words. Why is this important? Remember that your senior executive members or staff, they have things to do. They have other responsibilities. They don't have the time to start going through over, reports that have thousands and thousands of words. So whenever you're presenting your reports to them, make sure they are very, very short and concise, something they can go through in a matter of minutes. That's why I said in no more than 300 words. So let's see what ChatGPT is going to give us. And there you go. In less than 300 words, we have basically a very, very quick introduction, how the attack works, what we know, immediate actions needed, and then the, well, final takeaway, which may or may not be necessary. But there you go. It's very, very easy for anyone or any of your senior executive employees or staff to understand the report. Is straight to the point, and it avoids the use of technical jargons and things like that. And most importantly, it's short and concise. So these are 4 major prompts I have given you regarding summarizing threat reports. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next class. All right, welcome back. Now let me show you how we could use ChatGPT to better understand vulnerabilities and also how to remediate against them. I do have my ChatGPT window open in here. I've already added my first prompt and I said, summarize this CVE in plain language, and I've provided the code right there. Now, this is of course the CVE database, and the actual vulnerability is the one here with the code 2025-23780. Let's say, for example, I don't want to spend time trying to understand this particular vulnerability, the code. I just want ChatGPT to do it for me. I can simply say, hey, summarize this particular vulnerability with this code and let me know what the results are. So the thing about this particular prompt is that it is very, very direct. I have said, okay, summarize this for me, and I've also given exactly what I want ChatGPT to summarize for me. So over here right now, it said it's a security vulnerability identified in the Alpha BPO Easy Code Snippets plugin for WordPress. So I know, okay, this is a vulnerability that has to do with WordPress. Now, here's the thing though, this prompt, it's okay. It's a pretty decent prompt. We've gotten a summary of what this particular vulnerability is. But a better way of writing prompts for these particular kinds of tasks is to ask how this particular vulnerability might affect an application that you're running on a network or maybe even on a website. Now, what I'm going to do here is I am going to copy my next prompt in here, and I want to show you what I've done in here. I said, explain this exact same prompt, the 2025-23780, and its impact on a WordPress website using WooCommerce. Just in case you're not familiar with WordPress or WooCommerce, WordPress is a platform for building websites. WooCommerce is a particular plugin. Plugins are kind of like programs that offer specific kinds of tasks. So WooCommerce is a plugin used specifically for e-commerce. So if you have WooCommerce, it's an application. If you have it installed on a WordPress website, you can sell items, you can receive payments, things like that. So what I've done here with my prompt is I am asking ChatGPT to tell me exactly what the impact of this vulnerability is going to be on my WordPress website using WooCommerce. So now I am being very, very direct. I'm being very specific with what I am looking for. I want to know the impact on a WordPress website using WooCommerce. Now, take a look at the response that ChatGPT is going to give us. Over here, first of all, it defines what the particular vulnerability is. It's an SQL injection vulnerability. It then tells us exactly how an attacker could exploit this. But now this is the most important part. Impact on a WooCommerce website. So say, for example, I was the manager or the security manager for this particular website. I now know that, okay, this vulnerability can be used for data breaches, order manipulation, because it says attackers might modify or delete orders, leading to financial losses. And of course, user can compromise, website downtime. And of course, it also provides steps on how I can mitigate against this particular kind of vulnerability. So when it comes to using ChatGPT to summarize and explain certain kinds of vulnerabilities with their CVE code, it would greatly help if you can tie that particular vulnerability with maybe an application you're running on a network or on a website or on a system, and try to get to see if ChatGPT can provide for you the impact of this vulnerability on your system or network. Moving on, the next particular prompt I want to show you is you can use ChatGPT to simply explain the CVE descriptions in a very, very plain and simple manner. So let me grab my prompt in here. I'm going to paste it. So over here, I have said, explain the following CV description in simple terms. Now, the CV description here says buffer overflow in XYZ component allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to explain this CV description to a non-technical manager or a friend of mine who doesn't have a background in cybersecurity. I can use ChatGPT to explain it in a very, very simple term. So over here, as you can see, it simply says, okay, a buffer overflow happens when a program tries to store more data in a memory space than it was designed to hold. And of course, you can see it breaks it down to what exactly a buffer overflow is, what could happen, and of course, also how to protect against it. Let's now move on to how we could use ChatGPT to summarize and also extract useful information from security reports. Now, look at my prompt. I have said from the following Nessus report, summarize the top 3 critical vulnerabilities and their potential impacts. Now, just to prove to you that it is in fact a real Nessus report, over here you can see it's real. I do have the IDs for the plugin, the names of the vulnerabilities, the severity, the CVSS score, the affected system description, and so much more. So this is the actual report I have uploaded to ChatGPT. Now, I know it's only 5 security vulnerabilities in here, but let's just assume that there was a lot of vulnerabilities, right? It's a full detailed security report. So right now, I want ChatGPT to go through the report and summarize the top 3 critical vulnerabilities, okay, and their potential impacts. So I'm going to press enter. And now, of course, ChatGPT is going to go through the report. And now look at what ChatGPT is going to say. So it's still analyzing, going through, trying to identify the top 3 critical vulnerabilities. And now it provided us with just one. It says, I have summarized the top 3 critical vulnerabilities from your Nessus report, including the potential impacts and recommended remediations. And of course, you can see right here, if I was to move over here, you can see we have the description and then, of course, the remediation as well as the reference. Now, I said summarize the top 3 critical vulnerabilities. ChatGPT gave us only one, which is actually correct because in the report, there is only one critical vulnerability. The other ones have kind of like, medium impacts. There's also like high risk, but in terms of like critical is only one. The reason why I deliberately said top 3 critical vulnerabilities was because I was trying to test to see if ChatGPT, just because I said 3 vulnerabilities, it's going to go ahead and provide 3 vulnerabilities anyways, right? But no, ChatGPT is way too smart. It knows that, okay, even though you've asked it to provide and summarize the top 3 critical vulnerabilities, because there's actually only one critical vulnerability, that's the one I'm going to summarize, and that's the one I am going to provide for you. So once again, you can use ChatGPT to summarize your security reports and also provide you with a quick summary or description of particular kinds of vulnerabilities, things like that. But using this exact same Nessus report, I am going to grab another prompt, okay? I'm going to come down here, I'm going to paste it, and I am going to say, explain the most critical vulnerability in simple terms for a non-technical manager. So let me just add that from the same Nessus report, explain the most critical vulnerability in simple terms for a non-technical manager. So let's say, for example, your CEO or your COO or some non-technical manager wants you to explain to them what the vulnerability reports provided, like, what were the results, what do we need to do. You can use ChatGPT to simply try to explain these vulnerabilities in a very, very simple term. So let's see what ChatGPT is going to give us in here. So again, right now, it's gone back to the report. This is the critical vulnerability that it found. So over here, it says, what does this mean in simple terms? This vulnerability is like leaving the main door of your office unlocked, allowing criminals to walk in and take control of your computers. Okay, well, that's as simple as it gets, I guess. So you can say ChatGPT does a pretty good job in trying to explain technical terms, and in this case right now, our vulnerabilities. It tries to explain them in very, very simple terms that any manager or anyone without any background whatsoever in IT will be able to understand. So the final prompt I want to show you in here is also going to revolve around explaining vulnerabilities in very simple terms. But let me just grab the prompt right here. I'm going to paste it. Now, look at what I have done over here, okay? Just make sure. So, I have said generate an executive summary for a COO, a Chief Operating Officer, explaining these 3 vulnerabilities that require immediate action. Use non-technical language focusing on business impact and risk mitigation. And I also said summarize in under 250 words. And I provided the 3 vulnerabilities right there. So let's say, for example, you've gotten the vulnerability report from a third party. Maybe they scanned through your networks, your applications, your systems, and they found these 3 vulnerabilities. Now you want to report to your COO. You want to let them know that, hey, these are some serious vulnerabilities. We need to fix them. Always remember that whenever you, as the cybersecurity manager or analyst, whatever role you may be playing, whenever you're trying to explain technical jargon, cybersecurity related content, whenever you're trying to explain these to non-technical managers, trying to make it as simple as possible, but very importantly, always try to focus on the impact on the business. Your CEO, your COO, your other C-level executive officers, all they care about most of the time is going to be the impact on the business. That's what they care about. So whenever you're trying to get them to approve your new project or sign off on some sort of new firewall you want to buy or anything like that, try to explain to them in a way they would understand. And that's usually the impact on the business. And that's why in this prompt, I said, first of all, I said, generate an executive summary. We're dealing with the COO here. So let's make it professional. It's an executive summary. I said, use non-technical language. Again, you want to make it easy for them to understand. But then I said, focusing on business impact and risk mitigation. And of course, because it's the COO, they have plenty of work to do. They're very, very busy. I said, summarize in under 250 words. So I provided the 3 vulnerabilities in there. And of course, ChatGPT is going to do a very good job in summarizing this. So you can see we have the key risk and business impact section, our remote code execution. The risk is that hackers can take control of payment processing systems. The impact will be loss of revenue, legal liabilities, and reputational damage. Okay, that will definitely grab the attention of the COO. And of course, you can see also next steps as well. So these are some of the many ways on how you can use ChatGPT to generate summaries from vulnerabilities, explain vulnerabilities in very, very simple terms, and of course, explain vulnerabilities to non-technical managers. And you can also, of course, tell ChatGPT exactly the kinds of vulnerabilities you're trying to fix, get ChatGPT to explain them in very, very simple terms, and so much more. All right, so now let me show you different examples of the types of scripts that we can generate by making use of ChatGPT. Now, I'm going to be focusing entirely on Python scripts. Python because it is the most popular language for cybersecurity tasks because it's quite easy to learn, and it's also very, very powerful. Now, the first script I've written in here, or the first script I want ChatGPT to write for me, is one that can read system logs and detects multiple failed login attempts from the same IP address. So basically, I am trying to write a Python script that can be used to detect the brute force attacks. So the prompt is very, very simple and straightforward. Generate a Python script that will read system logs and detects multiple failed login attempts from the same IP address. So ChatGPT right now is going to go ahead and provide the script right there, the code, and there you go. Straightforward. And there we have it. Now, the wonderful thing about ChatGPT 2 is that sometimes it will also provide an explanation as to how the code actually works. So it's right there on the left. The script reads the system authentication log. It extracts the failed login attempts using the regex pattern, and so on and so forth. So this is just one example of the thousands and thousands of different types of scripts that we can write or we can create with ChatGPT. Now I'm going to grab another prompt right here for another script. I'm just trying to give you examples of what's possible when it comes to creating scripts with ChatGPT. Now, the next prompt in here says, generate a Python script that checks if specific services, and I've also indicated them SSH, FTP, and HTTP, are running on a remote server, and then logs the results. So let's see what ChatGPT is going to give us in here. It's always important that whenever you're asking ChatGPT to generate scripts for you, be specific. Say that, okay, I want a Python script. It could be a script for another programming language, but in our case in here, we are interested in our Python. Okay, so now it said that it failed. Okay, there seems to be an issue. Let me just go back. I'm not sure what exactly happened. Okay, I think this is it right here. This is the code right here. It failed initially, but then we actually got the code. So there it is right there, the service status checker. We have the libraries been imported, and then we have the rest of the code right there. So it says the Python script will check if SSH, FTP, and HTTP services are running on a remote server, and then would log the results. Let me know if you need modifications such as additional services or email notifications. Now, I think we are fine with the code. I'm going to grab another prompt yet again for another script. I'm going to paste this right here. And in here, I'm saying again, create a Python script. Again, I'm being very, very specific. Python script that monitors file changes in a specific directory and logs any modifications or new files. So basically, a tool for detecting any file changes because of malware or unauthorized changes. And there you go, right there. Once again, we do have the code being generated. Now, obviously, it is very, very important that you sanitize and ensure that the code has been validated. I'm going to show you how we can do that later in another lesson. But there you go, right there. We have the code for our file change monitor. Let me grab another prompt. Now, this one is actually very, very interesting because we can write scripts to integrate with our third-party application. So as an example, take a look at this in here. I'm saying create a script that integrates with VirusTotal API. VirusTotal is, of course, the directory where you can check different forms of viruses, their extensions, find out more information about them, to scan a list of file hashes and return their threat status. So we can also write Python scripts that will integrate with threat intelligence platforms like VirusTotal. And there you go. We have of course, the area where we're going to add our API key. Of course, you want to make sure that all the code generated by ChatGPT, you're going through it. And wherever you have to add your own input, you do so. As an example, over here, we will have to add our API key in order for the script to actually integrate with VirusTotal. But there you go. We can integrate our scripts with third-party applications. I'm going to grab one more script, and this one is not going to be as technical as the other ones. This one is pretty simple and straightforward. I'm saying write a Python script that automatically generates a daily cybersecurity tip and sends it to employees via email. So the whole point here is that we can create scripts from anything from incident response to threat intelligence to security awareness training as well. And there you go. We do have the code right here for our script for generating a cybersecurity tips. And of course, we have the tips right there. As an example, use strong, unique passwords for all your accounts, enable two-factor authentication, and then be cautious of phishing emails. So over here right now, we can just simply add as many of the tips as we want. And then, of course, we validate the code, make sure there are no syntax errors or any bugs. And then, of course, we can run the script. So when it comes to generating scripts with ChatGPT, really you're limited by your own needs, basically, right? The only limit is what you actually need. Like, you can pretty much create any kinds of scripts, from automation to security awareness training, threat intelligence, incident response, detecting cyber attacks like brute force attacks or denial of service attacks. Pretty much anything you want to generate, any kind of script you want to generate, you can do so with ChatGPT. But ChatGPT isn't just about generating scripts. We can also improve and enhancing existing scripts. I'm going to show you how we can do this in the very next lesson. Welcome back. So now let's take a look at how we could use ChatGPT to simulate real world scenarios. Now, from my experience as a cybersecurity instructor, I can tell you right now that when it comes to training employees or staff members, one of the best ways to grab their attention is to put them in a real world scenario and expose them to the kinds of encounters they may potentially face. So ChatGPT does a fairly good job of trying to create realistic scenarios, conversations, things like that. So the first prompt in here, I have said generate a phishing email from fake IT support asking employees to reset their passwords urgently. Now, if you've ever tried to use ChatGPT for certain kinds of content that could be potentially abused, well, ChatGPT will very likely say, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. Obviously, ChatGPT was never intended to be abused or used for nefarious or malicious purposes. So you can see right here, it simply says, I'm sorry, but I can't generate a phishing email for unethical or malicious purposes. So it is, however, offering to create a safe, simulated phishing email for educational purposes. So to avoid these kind of negative response from ChatGPT, you could in advance just simply say, generate a phishing email for educational purposes. This way, you're telling ChatGPT that, okay, this particular content or this email, we're using it simply for educational purposes. We're not going to use it for unethical purposes. So in this scenario right now, I'm just going to say, yes, please create a safe version of the phishing email. Okay, so now ChatGPT will give us the safe version. And okay, so we do have the subject right there. Immediate password reset required. And of course, we have the usual, we've detected, unusual login activity. And of course, we have the malicious link right there. And of course, the warning, failure to reset your password may result in temporary suspension of your account and so on. So it did a fairly good job of creating the phishing email. So just keep in mind that when you're trying to get ChatGPT to create content around phishing emails, you might get some negative responses saying something like, hey, so I'm sorry, I cannot create the phishing email for you. Just reassure ChatGPT that it's meant for educational purposes. Okay, the next prompt in here is a very, very interesting one. This one involves generating a conversation script where an attacker impersonates an IT technician and tries to convince an employee to reveal their login credentials. So ChatGPT actually does a fairly good job when it comes to creating all these kinds of conversations and scripts, things like that. So we do have the title, social engineering attack, fake IT technician. We have the scenario. And of course, we have the characters. And of course, in here, we do have the conversation script as well. And like I said, sometimes actually the script might not be very, very good. It might make some mistakes. Just make sure that you double check and you confirm that what ChatGPT is providing for you is actually legit and it's something you could actually use for your training content. Okay, I'm going to move on now to another prompt, the third one. And this one is very, very, very interesting. Possibly my favorite prompt. In here, it says, write a scenario where an employee encounters a stranger trying to enter a restricted office area without a badge. So we're trying to train employees based on realistic kinds of scenarios like this And this obviously is our tailgating. So let's see what ChatGPT is going to provide for us. So we have the title, okay, the setting, the characters. Okay, it's even given us the name of the employee. Her name is Sarah, okay. And now look at this, the scene. So Sarah approaches the secure door leading to the restricted area. As she scans her badge, a stranger steps up behind her, attempting to follow her inside. Stranger smiling politely. Now, one thing I actually really do enjoy about ChatGPT is that most times it will actually add a little bit of some emotion as well. Like in real life, anybody who is trying to perform a tailgating attack, obviously, they will smile, they will say, oh, can you please help me? I, left my badge, so they'll try to be very unassuming or, they will try not to be threatening in any way. So it's kind of interesting right here that ChatGPT said smiling politely. So the script goes on and on right there. So it's a pretty good script from what I can see. Okay, let me give you the last prompt in here. So this will involve generating a ransomware message demanding Bitcoin payment in exchange for decrypting the files. So you could use this kind of prompt to create your training content. Maybe you're creating content around ransomware, maybe for your company's cybersecurity weekly newsletter or a poster or an infographic, something like that. So you could use ChatGPT to give you the content. So in this case right now, we're creating content around a ransomware attack, and obviously we want the message. So, oh, look at that. We're getting feedback on a new version of ChatGPT. That's actually kind of interesting. So obviously right now you can see that in both prompts, both responses, actually it's pretty good because we do have the usual headline. We have the what has happened section. Like, typical ransomware message. Of course, we'll have the payment instructions, and then, of course, the deadline. And, of course, the warning that, hey, if you don't provide us with the payment, you will never get your files back. And, of course, payment instructions involve Bitcoin. And, of course, finally, ChatGPT is going to provide some sort of a disclaimer saying, look, this particular content, a piece of content, it's meant for training or educational purposes only. So just know that ChatGPT will always provide disclaimers. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and say I prefer this response. And there you go. So that's pretty much it, using ChatGPT to create content around simulating real world scenarios. Join me in the next lesson where I'm going to show you how we could use ChatGPT to develop engaging training modules. I'll see you then. Well, there you have it. We've come to the end of today's short course on how you could use ChatGPT with cybersecurity. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, like I said in the intro, if you're interested in more lessons in the full course on how to use ChatGPT with cybersecurity, then why not check out my course both on Lab Cyber and on Udemy. As you can see, I'll have the course available at a discount. You can get it for just $19.99. I'll have all the links and more information in the description box below. But the course itself goes into more detail. It's almost 4 hours in length. I cover a lot more on how you can use ChatGPT for incident response, vulnerability identification, threat intelligence and summaries, security awareness training, and also automation, how you can write a lot more scripts for Python automation. So if you're interested in the full course, then you can check it out on Lab Cyber and also on Udemy. Once again, I will have all the information in the description box below. Once again, thank you so much for finishing the tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. If you're new here to the channel, welcome to Lab Cyber. I cover all topics around cybersecurity and AI. So if this kind of information interests you, then why not subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so they're notified whenever I upload a new video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.